Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Don's Lawns.
Yeah, Don's Lawns is the best!
So in today's episode, we're going to do a little aeration and top dressing with peat moss. So my trouble areas in the Bermuda lawn are kind of right here. They're right over here around this area outside of the playscape, right outside the playground, and kind of around this little side path here. It just gets very compacted, lots of use. The dogs run through there a lot. And then I have this low stretch throughout the middle. It's always been a low, kind of like a swath through there. That's always been a problem there in the middle. And I've already top dressed it with some peat moss, but since the soil was so wet from all the rain, I figured I'd go ahead and aerate it and top dress some more there too. So we got a lot of rain last night and early this morning, and some sections of this Bermuda got a little too much water. It was a little flooded this morning. Well, it's subsided slightly and the sun's coming out, so I'm gonna go through and do a little aeration in those low spots that have trouble draining, and I'm gonna add some peat moss, and you may be wondering why I'm doing that. So quite honestly, I'm adding peat moss to those low areas because they hold water, and peat moss helps to control moisture a little bit, and it provides some organic material back into the soil. I'm not ready to do any sand leveling on this yet because it needs to get healthy, needs to get strong, and I need to build up more of the topsoil and more of the organic base before I go in and throw any sand to level it out. So let's talk about aeration first, and then we'll start talking about this peat moss. So the first type of aeration we're going to talk about today is tine aeration. And I'm going to be using a pitchfork to aerate a couple of spots. The pitchfork serves as a tine aerator because it simply sticks into the ground and moves the dirt or the soil out of the way. It doesn't remove it, it just moves it. After you use this, you go through and fill in those open areas, or you can leave it open to breathe a little bit and help with drainage either way. So the next and probably more frequently used type of aeration is a core aerator. This is a Yard Butler core aerator, and I've used it quite a bit in my yard. Anytime I find a trouble spot or I'm not sure what's going on there, I'll go and stick this in the ground and pull a core, pull a plug, and see what's going on. Sometimes I find concrete under the ground, or other times I find that maybe I'm just not getting enough water in that spot, whatever the case may be. But this literally pulls a plug or a core of soil out of the ground and creates a hole, an opening for you to get more air and nutrients into the ground. So I'm going to be using both of these today, the core aerator by Yard Butler and my pitchfork as a tine aerator, and we're going to do a little bit of aeration in our trouble spots and our low areas that flooded this morning, and then we'll probably go through and top dress with peat moss to add some organic material to the soil. So I just finished sprinkling out some peat moss in all the areas that I aerated. I did the middle of the green here, over there by the playscape, and then also over by the front where we get a lot of path usage there. So I spread the peat moss, and now I'm gonna go through and use my lawn leveling tool to kind of level them out a little bit and smooth out the peat moss into the holes, and then I'm gonna come back with the push broom and brush them in under the turf canopy. So it does look a little rough right here in a couple spots, but don't worry about it. The Bermuda will fill in and thicken up nicely. Okay, so tips for doing this project at home: you want to make sure your soil is wet before you go to try to aerate, or else it could be like hitting concrete. Your aerator or your tools are not going to go into the ground very well. The second thing, after your soil's nice and wet and damp, take your time, find those low areas that are flooding all the time, hit those first. And then the third thing you want to do is come through, and personally, I'm not ready for sand, so I'm going to be applying more organic materials such as peat moss. And like I said earlier, I'm using peat moss because I want to build up my soil structure. I want to add more organic material and provide a little more cushion to that grass. So I'm using peat moss. I use my leveling tool to get it down and flat, and then I use my push broom to get it beneath the canopy and down at the base of the plant. As always, guys, I hope you hit that like button, tap subscribe down below. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at DonsLawns1, and I'll see you in the next video. Best of luck in the lawn.